Right guys, so I'm back. My recording was halted due to a telephone call. So what I'm going to do with all my pieces of cardstock is use my corner rounder, and I'm going to make nice neat corners. You can see before I was interrupted, I had already put the tape on all three of the inserts. So the tape is already on. As soon as I've done my corner rounding, if at this stage you want to get the shabby chic distressed look, you would then use your Daba sponge and your distress ink. I use Distress Oxide, which is Vintage Photo. Get all those corners rounded. I unfortunately was interrupted by a telephone call, but let's get back on track. There we go. We've rounded all the corners. Now, we make sure that our largest piece is on the bottom. Our second largest piece is the piece that we're going to take the tape off, the double-sided tape, and we're going to place this in the middle, making sure that we get even on both sides and top and bottom, and then we'll smooth that down for our spine. The next one is going to be the third largest. I'll just take the backing off the double-sided tape, and carefully again we're going to lay the third one with the same spacing on the sides, making sure that we've got everything straight, and we'll smooth that down. We then take our last piece of cardstock with the double-sided tape, and again do exactly the same, making sure that you've got this one centered all the way down and on the sides. That's a pretty good job. Right. So now we basically have our basic book. You can see that we have the fold line, and where you've stuck your second page and going through, you have a small space in between. Just give those another nice crease as we go along. And there we have our basic little mini album. Start of our basic little mini album. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to mat the spine, the front, the back. So what we do is lay our cardstock flat, and I'm going to bring in my Fiskars trimmer, and for this I have used the Dragonfly kit, and I'm going to just quickly go through the Dragonfly kit to show you. Those are a couple of beautiful card inserts. There we have a couple of tags that we're going to make. We have a couple of pockets, all with the beautiful, beautiful dragonfly. There we have a mini envelope. There we have some insert pages for our journaling book. We have a large envelope in the creamy oranges. There we have another large envelope, and then come our pages for the matting. This is a lined, beautiful collaged page, and there's that one. This is one of the most beautiful, beautiful kits. Lined page again. I think I'm going to use this for my cover, so I'll keep that one aside. Here's one of the other pages, and then we have that page. So we've got all these beautiful cards, which I printed off on my Epson Eco printer, which is the best imaginable printer you could have. So we're going to start with matting our cover. Now, as I did with this journal, you can see I took that piece of the image and I cut it out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to measure. You can mat right to your end if you want. I don't like that, so I leave a little bit of a border. So my matting is going to be 6 inches by just 4 inches, 6 by 4. So let me cut this out correctly, because my printer sometimes sends it through incorrectly. So let's make sure that we have. Now you don't have to actually be 100% with cutting out your images, because if there's a little bit of white showing, you just use your Dauber and your Tim Holtz Distress inks, and as if by magic the white is taken away. I'm doing this album for a course I'm teaching on the weekend. My cutter needs a little bit of attention, but we'll fix that. Right, so we're going at 4 inches for the width, and as you can see, that's going to be the front. Now I rather like the rose and the dragonfly, so I'm going to take a bit off the top. And then measure, was it 6 inches? And measure my height. Because your album is 6 1/4, 6 inches gives you just a nice, perfect border. There we go. I'll take a little bit more of the top, I think. Please don't throw away your scraps. You can always use them for your tags, your embellishments, your pockets, collaging. So there we go. We've cut our image out too much. So we're going to change it. So we're going to go back to the 4, and we're going to make it 6. I'll change this one up. This can be the back cover. I just need to get another piece of cardstock because, as you can see, I've cut that too short, but we can always fix that or use it for something else. So we won't throw that away, we'll just keep it. I'm going to change this one a little bit then, I think, and I'm going to use this piece as my front cover. I just need to trim up the sides to square this off. Never assume that your paper is straight, because it never is. So we'll just trim up our paper. It really is difficult working behind a tripod and a camera to when you're doing it yourself on your own, happily, but there you go. Right, so bearing in mind I'm going to do 4 inches for my length, and I'm going to do 6 inches, sorry, 4 inches for my width and 6 inches for my length. So there, I'm going to use that particular piece as my front, which I rather like. This particular piece for my back, which is also beautiful. And then we have to cut our spine. Now the spine is again 6 inches in length and just over 1, just under 1 1/4. So we're going to cut the spine, I think, at 1. We're going to again cut the length at 6. And we're going to cut the spine to measure 1. I love my Fiskars cutter. It does, however, need a new blade. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. There we go. So, because we rounded the corners of the basic album, I'm going to round the corners. Let me just get rid of all this rubbish lying here. I'm going to round the corners of my matting. I think it just, if you have continuity, it looks good. So we're not going to round all the corners. We're just going to round the outside corners. So that is our back. Our front is going to be, make sure you have got your paper same way round on either side. Then the front, I'm going to round the 2 front corners. So we have our front matting, we have our back matting, and we have our spine cut out. You can now, if you want to, take your distress ink to get rid of any little white edges that you've got on your paper, and also if your cutter's not cutting that well, it also gets rid of those little bits. So you can see it just adds that little bit extra. And takes away that white edge. If you're going to do a white album, you don't have to do this, but I prefer tea stain paper for my journaling insert, so just to keep the continuity I like to ink up my edges, just to give it that little bit of definition. So there we go. Right, so let me just move my scoreboard out the way. This is going to be the front of my album. Now, glue, I tend to use white glue. You just have to make sure that your glue is right on the edge, across the middle, and we do our center it as best we can, even borders, top and bottom. I like white glue because it gives you a bit of leeway to wriggle around, and there we go with our matting on the front. Make sure you press the glue outwards and always have something on hand just in case you have a little too much glue, as I did there, to wipe it away. Okay, now we're going to do the back, which is my 3 dragonflies. Helps if you take the lid off your glue. And we're going to place the back exactly the same way as we did the front, making sure that we've got everything lined up. Nice borders. The beauty of junk journaling and journaling this way is that nothing has to be perfect. If there's a little error along the way, just adds to the fact that you made it yourself and it's personal. Because as we know, nobody's perfect, so there we go. Right, now we're going to glue our spine in place. Making sure our writing's not upside down. There we go. And there we have the outside.